The sand beneath Keisha Morgan's boots was red, coarse, and stained with centuries of blood. She stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by 50,000 alien voices screaming for violence. The Varkeshi filled the circular stadium, their scales glinting under twin suns, their fanged mouths open in anticipation. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. This was a test, and failure meant more than personal death. It meant humanity would be turned away from the Galactic Union, cast back into isolation among the stars. Keisha rolled her shoulders and studied her opponent. Thurok stood 9 feet tall, his muscular frame covered in overlapping gray plates that looked like living armor. 4 arms hung at his sides, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His eyes were black, emotionless, fixed on her with predatory focus. The arena master had called him the champion of Varkesh, undefeated in 200 fights. The crowd chanted his name like a war drum. She was 5'7", unarmed, wearing nothing but a simple combat suit. No weapons, no armor. The Varkeshi High Council had made the rules clear. Prove humanity's strength in single combat, or leave this world in disgrace. Keisha had tried to explain that humans didn't settle diplomacy with fists, but the council had laughed. They said words were for the weak, and only blood revealed truth. Fine. If they wanted truth, she'd give it to them. The arena master raised his staff. The crowd fell silent. Thurok shifted his weight, all 4 arms flexing. Keisha stayed perfectly still, her breathing slow and controlled. She'd studied Varkeshi anatomy during the flight here, memorized every pressure point, every joint, every weakness. She knew where their nerves clustered, where their bones were thinnest, how their balance worked with 4 arms instead of 2. Humans had been fighting for survival since they climbed down from the trees. This was just another day. The staff came down. The fight began. Vax exploded forward with terrifying speed, closing the 30 feet between them in less than 2 seconds. His lower arms reached for her torso, while his upper arms cocked back for a crushing blow. The crowd roared. Keisha didn't move until he was within striking range. Then she stepped left, slipping outside his grip. Her right hand shot up, fingers rigid, and drove into the nerve cluster just below his jaw. Threx's head snapped back. His arms faltered. She didn't stop. Reen. In one fluid motion, Keisha pivoted, hooked her leg behind his knee, and pulled while driving her shoulder into his midsection. Leverage. Physics. 130 pounds redirecting 900. Threx went down hard, crashing into the sand with a sound like thunder. Before he could recover, Keisha dropped her knee onto his primary nerve stem, just where his spine met his skull. Pressure, precise and controlled. His body, locked up, all 4 arms twitching uselessly. She leaned close and whispered in his ear, "Stay down." 15 seconds had passed. The arena was silent. 50,000 Varkeshi stared in disbelief. Threx lay motionless in the sand, his breath coming in shallow gasps, his eyes wide with shock. Keisha stood and stepped back, raising her hands to show she was finished. The arena master looked to the High Council, confusion written across his reptilian face. No one knew what to do. High Chancellor Vorun rose from his seat, his crimson robes flowing as he descended the steps toward the arena floor. The crowd parted for him. His eyes were narrow, his scaled face unreadable. He stopped at the edge of the sand and stared at Keisha for a long moment. Then he looked at Threx, still struggling to move. "Explain," Vorun said, his voice cold. Keisha met his gaze without flinching. "Your champion is strong, but strength without precision is wasted. Humans learn this early. You used trickery. I used knowledge. There's a difference." Vorun's tail lashed behind him. "You claim this represents humanity? One fast victory over a warrior who expected honor? I claim," Keisha said, her voice carrying across the silent arena, "that humanity doesn't fight for honor or glory. We fight to survive, and we've been doing it longer than most species have had fire." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The High Council members leaned toward each other, whispering in their harsh language. Vorun's expression darkened. He turned to the council, then back to Keisha. "The fight was too fast," he said. "It proves nothing. We expected battle. We expected to see your true nature. Instead, you ended it before it began.
You want to see more? Keisha asked.
Yes, she nodded slowly. Then give me a real fight. The arena exploded with noise. The Varkeshi roared their approval, banging their claws against the stone seats. Vorun raised his hand for silence. When the crowd quieted, he spoke again. Very well. War-Chief Vorath will face you, this time with weapons, this time to the death or surrender. Keisha felt her pulse quicken, but her expression didn't change. Accepted. Vorath emerged from the council platform. He was larger than Threx, his scales darker, his movements controlled and deliberate. Scars crisscrossed his arms and chest, each one a testament to battle survived. He carried no weapon yet, but his eyes held a promise. This would not be like the first fight. 2 arena attendants approached Keisha, carrying a rack of weapons. Blades, spears, electrified whips, impact hammers. She scanned them quickly and selected a simple staff, 6 feet long, weighted at both ends. Vorath chose dual curved blades, each as long as Keisha's arm. The crowd chanted. The arena master raised his staff again. Keisha centered her breathing, feeling the staff's balance in her hands. Vorath circled her slowly, analyzing, waiting for an opening. She let him. Patience was part of combat too. The staff dropped. Vorath came in low and fast, both blades sweeping toward her legs. Keisha vaulted over the strike, using the staff to pull Volt clear. She landed behind him and swung the weighted end toward his spine. He twisted impossibly fast, catching the staff between his blades and wrenching it to the side. Keisha let it go, rolled forward and came up with a handful of sand that she flung into his eyes. He roared and slashed blindly. She ducked under his arms, drove her fist into his kidney area and grabbed one of his blades as he staggered. The weapon felt wrong in her hand, too heavy, too curved, but she adapted. She always adapted. Vorath cleared his eyes and spun, his remaining blade arcing toward her neck. Keisha parried, the clash of metal ringing across the arena. She redirected his momentum, stepped inside his guard, and drove her knee into the joint of his lower left arm. Something cracked. He dropped the blade. She didn't let up. A strike to his throat, precise and controlled, enough to stagger him but not kill. A sweep to his legs. He fell to one knee. Keisha pressed the blade to his neck, right over his primary artery. 8 seconds. Yield, she said quietly. Vorath's breath came in harsh rasps. His eyes burned with fury, but beneath it, something else. Respect. He lowered his head slightly. I yield. Keisha stepped back and dropped the blade. The arena was silent again, but this time the silence felt different. Heavier, charged with something she couldn't quite name. High Chancellor Vortan descended to the arena floor again, but his expression had changed. The coldness was gone, replaced by something cautious, thoughtful. He approached Vorath, examined him briefly, then turned to Keisha. You could have killed him, Vortan said. Yes. Why didn't you? Because I didn't need to, Keisha said. Humans understand the difference between winning and slaughtering. We fought wars that lasted generations. We faced extinction and survived. We know when to kill and when to show mercy. That's what makes us dangerous. The crowd stirred. Vortan studied her face for a long moment, then looked up at the High Council. They were watching, waiting for his judgment. He was the eldest, the final word. You spoke of survival, Vortan said. What has humanity survived? Keisha took a breath. This was the moment. We survived ice ages that covered our world in glaciers. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars against ourselves when we had nothing but sticks and stones. And we survived wars when we had weapons that could crack our planet open. We've clawed our way up from caves to starships, and we did it without guidance, without help, without anyone telling us we were worthy. She turned to address the entire arena, her voice rising. You want to know what humanity is? We're the species that looked at the stars and said we belong there. We're the species that falls down and gets back up every single time. You think 15 seconds is fast? We've spent 10,000 years learning how to end fights before they start, 'cause we got tired of burying our children. The arena was silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Keisha looked back at Vortan. "We don't want your pity. We don't want your charity. We want a seat at the table, 'cause we earned it. And if you can't see that, then we'll build our own table and wait for you to ask to join us." Varun's tail moved slowly behind him, a sign of deep thought among the Varkashi. He glanced at the council, then at Vorath, still kneeling in the sand. Finally, he looked back at Keisha. "You have given us much to consider," he said carefully. "The council will deliberate. Take your time," Keisha said. "We're patient. We've waited this long." Varun nodded and returned to the council platform. The arena attendants helped Vorath to his feet and escorted him away. Keisha stood alone in the center of the arena, surrounded by thousands of watching eyes. She didn't move, didn't flinch. She'd said what needed to be said, done what needed to be done. Now it was up to them. The deliberation took 2 hours. Keisha remained in the arena the entire time, standing in the heat of the twin suns, refusing water, refusing rest. The Varkeshi watched her in silence. Some left. Most stayed. They wanted to see how this ended. Finally, High Chancellor Varun stood. The arena fell silent. "The High Council has reached a decision," he announced, his voice amplified across the stadium. "We have witnessed humanity's strength, humanity's precision, and humanity's restraint. We have heard their words and measured their resolve." He paused, and Keisha felt her heart hammering in her chest. "Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Union, with all rights and responsibilities therein. Furthermore, in recognition of her skill and courage, Keisha Morgan shall be known henceforth as the Queen of the Arena, a title of honor among our people." The crowd erupted, not in anger, not in protest, in thunderous approval. The Varkeshi roared and stamped their feet, the sound shaking the stadium. Keisha allowed herself a small smile. She'd done it. Humanity had done it. Vorun descended to the arena floor one final time. He approached Keisha and extended his hand in the human custom. She took it. "You have taught us something today," he said quietly. "Strength is not only in size or power. It is in knowing when to use it and when to hold back." "That's the first lesson of survival," Keisha replied. Vorun nodded. "Then perhaps we have much to learn from humanity after all." That night, Keisha stood alone in her quarters, looking out at the Varkeshi city lights spreading across the horizon. Her hands were steady as she recorded a message to Earth, to the United Earth Council, to everyone who had believed in her. "Mission accomplished," she said into the recorder. "Humanity has been accepted into the Galactic Union. Full membership, full rights. They call me the Queen of the Arena now, and I'll wear that title with pride. But more than that, I want everyone back home to know something important." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We didn't win because we were the strongest or the fastest. We won because we understood something the rest of the galaxy is still learning. Violence isn't about domination. It's about survival. And nobody survives like humanity. We've been doing it since the beginning, and we'll keep doing it until the stars go cold. The galaxy wanted to know what we're made of. Today, they found out." Keisha stopped the recording and sent it on its way, knowing it would take weeks to reach Earth. But it would get there, and when it did, humanity would celebrate. Not because they'd won a fight, but because they'd proven what they'd always known. They belonged among the stars. Down in the arena, workers were already cleaning the sand, preparing for the next day's events. But they left one section untouched, the spot where Keisha had stood for 2 hours in the blazing heat, waiting for judgment. The Varkeshi had a tradition. Ground touched by legends was sacred. In 15 seconds, Keisha Morgan had become a legend, and humanity had become unstoppable.